Blog Talk Radio.
Hello everyone, this is Lori Smith on Blog Talk Radio. It is Friday night, March 5th, 9:30 p.m. Calgary, Alberta time, and I'm happy to be here. And this is Child Abuse Prevention and Human Rights Abuse Prevention. It's up to us. We're on for 30 minutes. I don't usually take callers anymore just because people call in with jokes, and there hasn't been too many serious, callers calling in, so I actually stopped taking calls. But if you ever want to be on the show and you have some questions, get a hold of me before the show, and then I'll know what your number is and I can answer your call, because I welcome people to be on the show. I have a bunch of pranksters who like to call in, and it just wastes my time. So it wastes our time. So thank you so much for being here. This is a continuation of the topic Survivor to Thriver workbook that we were going over actually all week, Monday, Wednesday nights, and last week we started it, and it's a great handbook for adult survivors of child abuse. I found this. I was looking around at adult survivor issues, and I found the ASCA Adult Survivors of Child Abuse website, and that is www.ascasupport.org. It's a Morris Center program, and they are an international self-help support group program designed specifically for adult survivors of neglect, physical, sexual, and or emotional abuse. They're community-based self-help, provider-based self-help, web-based self-help support groups, right? So then they have a lot of cities actually host the ASCA program, and you can find groups in some of these cities and different areas around North America. And I haven't really looked into that yet, and just because I really haven't had all that much spare time, and I've been actually quite busy on quite a few different projects. So you can just look in your phone book, or you can go right on the website there, www.ascasupport.org, and see if there's a chapter in your area, because I'm going to do that eventually. And I very well might look to see if there's one here, and if not, I'll try to find one that's similar. And so on this website there's a free workbook. It's for anybody. Anybody can use it. It's free. You can download it, or you can read it right on the website. And it's 115 pages long, and the first 30-something pages are devoted to safety first, which is so important because they really want to make sure that everybody's in a safe place when they're actually going through the workbook. They suggest that you have a friend with you, someone you trust, or you can go through it with your counselor or your therapist or somebody who's really backing you up in your healing process and wants to help you out. And they did say, it's a good idea to do the safety first part first, because then you'll know if you're actually far enough along in your healing to even do the workbook. It's so important, because you don't want to, their main key point was that we don't want to, as people who are walking through this healing process and working out our issues, to actually regress and go backwards in our healing. So they really suggested that we all, in order to move forward, just know where we're at in our healing process and know what we can handle, and just move very slowly and cautiously through it. So I just believe that's so true. So tonight's topic is, very sensitive. And so if you're a survivor of child abuse and of any kind, and you just think, the topic could trigger you or cause you to be uncomfortable, please turn the show off, because it won't hurt my feelings at all. And so, I just think everyone has to make up their own mind what's good for them to listen to. So you have to listen at your own discretion. And if you're a young person, make sure you have someone listen to this show with you, because it's so important. Abuse is it's a very scary subject, especially for young children. Older children, older kids, like teenagers and older young adults, they know about abuse, but it's the young kids that don't know. They might not know a whole lot about abuse, and so it could be a scary topic for them. And I think if you're a young person, that you want to go get someone to listen to this with you, and make sure, I hope and pray you have a parent who cares what you're listening to and will be there for you. And if you don't, that's just, my heart is with you. And make sure you can get a counselor or a school, a coach, someone you trust, a neighbor, maybe somebody else's parents who you trust and who have a good head on their shoulders. And they can sit down and listen to this with you, and then you can see if it's something you should be listening to, right? Because I don't know where the players are now. So everyone listen at your own discretion, please. So we'll get right on to this topic. It's so important. This is Survivor to Thriver workbook, page 47, and it's called What Are the Adult Repercussions of Child Abuse? And it's so such a huge thing. I do a lot of talking about this, and there's so many great articles from different websites out there. Helpguide.org has lots of good information on it. The Child Abuse Monument website, which is Michael C. Irving's website, irvingstudios.com. There's lots of good stuff on there about adult survivor issues. But this Survivor to Thriver workbook is really good, and we've been going through a lot of it. And Wednesday night we were going through emotional abuse and all the different sort of aspects of emotional abuse. Now tonight we're going through what are the adult repercussions of child abuse. And so I'm reading right from the page, and you can go there too. And I'll give you that link again, www.ascasupport.org, and you can follow along with me on page 47. And I'm just going to read right from it, and I might add some stuff to it just from my own experience. If survivors of child abuse share many common experiences as children, it should be no surprise that they also share many of the long-term effects of child abuse. These problems often have a pervasive impact on all areas of a survivor's life. Following is a discussion of some of the most frequently cited problems experienced by adult survivors and some journal questions to help you in determining whether each issue is problematic for you. Not everyone shares all the different types of symptoms, nor do all survivors experience the same degree of intensity of the problems. You will have to determine which of the following problems are primary and which are secondary in your life. And they said here, recognize what seems to apply to you, make note of it, and leave the rest. And they said, use the journal questions as a framework. And remember that the fact that you experience any or all of these problems does not prove that you were abused as a child or that the abuse you suffered is the cause of your current problems. These self-perceptions and problems can stem from a variety of other sources, both internal and external. And I've heard that before, that we don't want, if we weren't abused, then we don't want to all of a sudden take on sort of like false memories. I've heard people, that's actually happened to some people, and that's bad, right? Nobody needs that in their life, right? Life's hard enough without adding that kind of stuff to it. Adult survivors often have a difficult time initiating, maintaining, and enjoying relationships. Any kind of relationship, ranging from collegial relationships at work to personal friendships to parent-child relationships to intimate romantic relationships, may be problematic. Relationships for survivors may reflect the all-or-nothing syndrome, either too few or too many relationships that seem to come and go like people through a revolving door. In some relationships, the survivor may assume a particular role and proceed to play out a replication of the past abuse. Given that child abuse most often occurs in the context of family relationships, the possibility of your repeating old patterns in a personal adult relationship should not be underestimated. Yeah, that's so true, because when you grow up in an abusive home, a person can't help but to take on, the sort of the different, I guess, just psychological traits of being a victim or whatever, right? And so then if you get into another relationship out in the world, perhaps a husband or a wife or a girlfriend, boyfriend, or whatever, a partner, you can often take on that role again as the victim again, right? And it's just bad. And I really, really recommend everybody. I mean, even myself, I wish I would have got help like a long time ago, because I'd be so much farther along. I can just imagine that I'd be just so much farther along. I would have been farther along a long time ago instead of suffering through for so many years by myself. And so it is hard, and you're not alone. And if you're suffering from survivor issues, child abuse issues, you're not alone. And there's just so many. It's so sad. There's so many of us out there. It'd be great if we could just say there was just like one or two, but unfortunately, there's so many of us out there. I actually know a whole bunch myself. I grew up with a lot of kids who came from abusive homes, who were mistreated, and some of them thrown out of their homes, and some of them, their parents actually packed up and took off and left the kid there. They went home one day from school and everybody was gone, and the furniture and everything. I knew kids who were neglected, mistreated, abused, sexually abused, and even myself grew up in an abusive home. And so I just know that it's going on and it's out there, and most people don't want to talk about it. Nobody wants to talk about it because it's so painful, but that's why I'm talking about it. It needs to stop, and we don't have to get involved, right? So I'll just keep going here. Relationships can be difficult because they call upon personal characteristics and emotional capabilities that are often new to adult survivors, such as trust, assertiveness, intimacy, self-confidence, good communication skills, the ability to give and receive affection, self-awareness and empathy for others, and acceptance of one's own feelings and needs. Many adult survivors find their personal relationships characterized by fighting, feeling misunderstood, projecting blame on each other, and feeling overwhelmed by powerful moods. Both of my parents were both of my parents grew up in abusive homes, and I'm not sure about my dad. He doesn't talk about his past, but I don't know, his family's a little strange, and it just seems to me there was some weird stuff going on there. But my mom was very vocal about her past, and the two of them were two adult survivors who grew up abused and mistreated in many ways, and then they had a whole mess of kids, and then turned around and did the same exact thing, to their kids, and it's just horrible, right? It was just a cycle of abuse, and I knew that my parents were. I knew the reason why they were suffering when I got older, but when I was a little girl, I didn't understand at all, and so then it was easier for me to not feel sorry for them, but just to kind of almost, not place so much blame. But the thing is, they didn't get help, and they didn't even try to get help, and that's what really today makes me very angry, because there were, the social workers and stuff stepped in and said that if my parents didn't get help, they were going to remove us. My mom was just begging and pleading that they not take her children, and so they said, okay, if you go to counseling and you straighten yourselves up, we'll let the kids stay, because there was physical abuse going on, and my brother actually said he was afraid to go home, and so that's why they got involved. So, they could have got help, and instead they just went the opposite way and completely shut the world out and kept their abusive behavior going for many, 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 many years. And so it's just so sad to see this, and we know what's going on. I know what's going on, and we need to do everything we can as a society to stop this and prevent it from happening, right? Had my parents gotten help, and if they had been forced to get help, I mean really forced, I think things would have gone a lot different, and a lot of the abuse would have stopped, and because they would have got help, right? They were lashing out at us because they were so miserable themselves, and they were not happily married, and so there was so many issues behind all of that, right? It says, frequently adult survivors anticipate rejection or non-acceptance and protect themselves by withdrawing or by becoming overly aggressive. These behaviors and others are probably ones you adopted as a child to help defend yourself against the abuse, but they may not be productive or healthy in adult relationships. And I know, like growing up, I was actually kind of a bully, not really a bully, but aggressive. If a kid broke my toy, I'd beat them up, and because I was just used to being beaten up. So if somebody did something I didn't like, I'd just slap them across the face, because that's what I got at home. And if a kid actually did something I didn't like one little kid flipped me off one time, and I chased him down and I beat him up, and that's just how I was treated. So I was just doing what I was taught. My mom used to chase me down and beat me up all the time. So that's why I just took that on. I took that role on, and even at school. So a lot of people stayed away from me. Kids just didn't like me, and I couldn't blame them, really. And as a teenager, I was very volatile and actually, out of control, doing drugs, and people were very much sort of on the lookout for me, and except for bigger people and people who could push me around, then of course there wasn't an issue. But a lot of my teenage sort of school age, high school age kids really kind of thought that I was a little bit crazy because I was very aggressive in my behavior, and threatening to beat people up and stuff like that. And it was really just so I don't know why. I guess I just did it because that's what I saw at home, right? These behaviors and others are probably ones you adopted as a child to help defend yourself, against the abuse, but they may not be productive or healthy in adult relationships. I know when I got into a relationship with my sweetheart, who I'm still with, he anytime we'd have an argument, I would start doing what my mom did, which was throw dishes, curse, and call him names, and say hateful things to him, and trash the kitchen. And my mom was so good at that, right? She was very good at trashing the house and trashing us. And So, that was what I learned, so that's what I took with me, and he had a hard time with it, and he didn't know how to really react and how to behave. We actually broke up for a year, and I took some time, and I thought about what I was doing, and I thought, I don't want to live my life like this, like I had already decided I didn't want to live my life like that, and then I was still doing it, even, years later after, I, at the age of 21, I decided to get on, to stop doing drugs and start getting my life together and have a good life, right? And it took me many, many years, and then I got to be 30 years old, and I was still continuing on the abusive behaviors that my mom had bestowed upon me, and it was really affecting my relationship with my sweetheart, and but I didn't want to get hurt, see, and so that was my way of making sure that I wasn't going to be hurt. And so I didn't trust anybody, and I didn't trust him. I didn't trust anybody, but I was willing to give it a shot, right? But it just wasn't working. So when I took that year off, and I just decided to really take a look at my behavior, and I went through a lot of emotional struggle that year, did a lot of looking at myself, looking at what I wanted in life, looking at what I didn't want, what I did want, what I needed for myself to have a good life. And I realized that man was, the love of my life. So I phoned him back 1 year pretty much to the date, and I asked him what he was doing, and he said, "Oh, I've been waiting for you to phone." So, it was just awesome. And when we got back together and we worked it out, we spent time talking to each other about what was wrong, what we needed to change. And because I told him, I said, I don't want to be my parents all over again. You know what I mean? I can't deal with that anymore. It was killing me. And so we developed a really close relationship, and even today it just gets stronger and stronger, all the time. And so it's so important to know we have to actually spend some time looking in at ourselves and what we need and what we don't want in our lives. If you don't want abusive behavior as an adult, you carry on this stuff with you, right? If you grew up in an abusive home or abused in any way, you're going to carry a lot of stuff with you, and you have to make a decision on what kind of a life you're going to live and what kind of a life you want to have. And I had already experienced a whole lifetime of hell. And so I thought, no, I don't want to live in hell anymore. I want to have a good life like everybody else, where I wake up in the morning and I'm not, fighting with somebody and not listening to somebody fighting and not having to be aggressive and cursing at people. And I just thought, I just want to live a normal life like normal people and just enjoy myself at somewhat, you know what I mean? We can't have a perfect day every day. But, just to be able to feel good about myself and feel good about life, and be able to trust people. I first of all had to learn to trust myself, and I had to learn how to love myself, right? So, that's why I think getting a counselor or a therapist is a really good idea, because it took me so long to get through this stuff, whereas if I would have had somebody actually telling me that in the first place, I could have walked through my healing quite a lot sooner and started to feel good about myself at a younger age, and that would have definitely helped things out. But, we do these things, I don't know, we just do what we do. But that's all I'm saying, is just realize you're not alone, and, we just have to keep going, keep moving forward, and keep walking it out. That's the whole thing, because there is a good life for all of us, but we have to really search it out, especially being abused. You really have to work almost, I don't know how many times harder, maybe 1,000,000 times harder to develop a healthy life and a healthy way of looking at life and a healthy way of looking at yourself, because you have to go back and undo the damage, right? And it's so hard, right? But I know that, because I'm still walking it. I'm still walking it every day, and it's easy for me to sort of, I don't want to say fall off the path, because I don't, but it's easy for me to take on the old attitudes that I used to have, where I sort of develop that old feeling again, right? And it's like, no, don't go that way. We want to keep moving forward, and I have to keep talking to myself all the time and keep myself sort of straightened out and like just believing in what I'm doing and believing in myself and thinking, it's okay. I'm doing fine, I'm under a little stress, but it's okay. And not allowing myself to get out of control or to feel that I'm out of control, right? So yeah, it's so important just to really to know, that you didn't deserve the abuse in the first place, that none of us did, and that we just have to keep moving forward all the time. So it says, after years of not feeling their feelings or expressing them to others, many survivors feel limited in their daily dialogue with a loved one. Making changes in your relationships begins with developing awareness about what modes modes of communication work and which don't. Discuss with your partner when and how best to talk to each other. So that's if you're in a relationship already, making changes to your relationship that begins to develop awareness, right, about what is actually working, what communication is working, what doesn't, discussing on with our partners, like how it's best to talk to each other and how we can work things out. So important, absolutely. Because if you grow up in an abusive home, especially in a domestic violence situation where your parents are fighting or your caregivers are fighting, and there's just abuse, and you develop this. You almost don't know how to communicate properly, right? And that's the thing. I had to learn all that on my own because my parents, even up until the day my mom died, still were not getting along that great. I think my dad said that they had sort of, over the last year before my mom passed away, sort of made up, but 1 year out of 50-something years, 40-something years of marriage, my God, they really should have gotten help a lot sooner, right? They could have had a good life, and I feel, that I do have a lot of empathy towards them because they could have had a good life, but instead of that, they watched their children go, they caused their children to go down into the pits of hell, and so it's really sad, and I know it happens, and I know that, it happens to so many people, and it's unfortunate because had my parents gotten help, I know they didn't set out to do that. They didn't set out to just say, okay, we're going to get married and we're going to have a bunch of kids and we're just going to ruin their lives. We're going to watch them commit suicide and we're going to watch them do a bunch of pills and overdose and we're going to watch my daughter struggle and this is going to be great. I know they didn't set out to do that. And so, but I still have to hold them accountable because I do not condone abuse of any kind. So I don't condone what they did, but it doesn't mean that I don't love them. I love them, and I didn't want to be removed from the home. There was a period of time where a family actually stepped in and said, we will get you out of the home if you want to get out. And I should have said yes, because then right there on the spot, it would have forced my mom to realize what she was doing to me. And but I love my family, and I didn't want to get separated from them, and so, which was stupid, because I should have done that, because, years later I was kicking myself really for not doing it, because I thought, my mom basically walked free, and felt justified in the way that she treated me, and I've been suffering, for 40-something years now, well, cognitively, at least 38 or 39 years, and so, and she got to walk free, and everybody thought she was the greatest person in the world. Oh, she was so wonderful. She made cookies, and she was so loving, and it's like, you didn't grow up in the house. As a matter of fact, she didn't spill your blood on the kitchen floor a couple of times, and, I can't condone abuse. I don't condone it, and I don't condone anybody who doesn't trust and believe a child. When a child tells you they've been abused, you need to pay attention and make sure that you know how to report abuse and know what the signs are and the symptoms, right? Because kids, you never know when a kid's going to show up on your doorstep with blood pouring out of their head and tell you they've been abused. And these people that were befriended me, they actually went down and made a deal with my mom. They said, look, we'll let her come and stay with us to avoid your abuse, and so when you're having a hard time, we'll take her over to our house. So I actually spent about off and on almost 2 years over at their house, and I'd go home for periods of time, and then I'd go back to their house, and it was just so cool because I got to see a real family. I got to live in a real family, experience what normal people do, experience love. These people love me like one of their own children, and so I was so thankful that these people did that for me. I'll never forget it. And they set a place for me at the table, and they loved me. My mom actually used to beat on me at the table. So these guys were welcoming me to the kitchen table and providing food for me. And I will never forget it. Never forget it in a million years. Their love and care. They fed me. They allowed me to just. Their house was my house, right? I was just like one of their kids, and it was so awesome, so incredibly awesome. And I can never thank them enough. And so, that's the thing, right? It's just unfortunate the kids don't get the help that they need when they do need it. And I know there's so many kids out there suffering right now who have no help at all, and they will, some of them will die tonight. and at the hands of caregivers and parents, and it's just so sad. My heart's with them. And in the meantime, there's all these survivors out here like us, by the millions, who are walking around basically, murdered, from the time we were kids, and trying to learn how to live. I mean, that's what I call it. It's like from death to life, right? It's like, you're born, and then you're killed, your spirit's killed, and then you have to learn how to live, right? And I'm so happy that I can be here to tell you right now that it's worth it, because I've found life. I found, I'm so happy because my brother didn't, and he killed himself, and he could not find it. He just couldn't. He just had to die, and that's so sad. I mean, my God, this is the thing, and that's what makes me mad, is that all these people sit around and think, oh well, he was a cocaine addict, that's why he killed himself. But they weren't in the home, and they didn't see the way he was treated. They didn't see the way that my dad treated him from day one, and so they didn't see the abuse. See. So this is what's so sad, right? People think, oh, he was just a loser, he was a drug addict, and he was just no good. And even family members think that about him. And, it's very sad because he suffered his whole entire life and then went on to suffer. And now, he didn't really reach out and get help, but he had a lot of mental, psychological issues from the abuse and stuff. I'm sure of it. I saw it. I witnessed it. I was there, and I couldn't stop it. I was 5, 6, 7 years old, and what could I do, right? And it was just the way it was in our house, I mean, all of us were mistreated. And so, what do you do, right? Well, it's so sad. All I can say is keep reaching out. Do not give up for 1 second. I decided that if I was, because I for many years was thinking of ending my life, and it was always in the back of my mind, I should just end it, because I wanted it out of the pain so bad, I wanted to be pain. I wanted that pain to be gone, and I thought the only way it's ever going to be gone is if I'm gone. And for over the years, I kept thinking like that. But my brother killed himself, so that always, I thought, okay, no, I'm not going to go that route. But in the meantime, I kept always kind of thinking about it, and I can't tell you how happy I am that I stayed and hung on. Because you know why? Because I'm a voice for those who are suffering right now. And I can tell you it's worth it, because I found love in my life. I learned to love myself. I learned to love other people. I even learned, I love my parents, but I even learned to love them even despite what they did. I'm sorry, I still do, because I have to love them, because hate is what was killing me. Their hatred almost killed me. They could have killed me. My mom could have killed me many times. She used to beat me up so bad that, she was a strong, powerful woman, and she used to hit me so hard she cracked my head, and she was, she gave me bloody noses, and she could have broke my neck. She was terrible. She used to knock me into things and break my head. I was just so wounded. And I'm telling you, it's very bad, very, very bad to have your head, hit like that so many times, right? Because it's almost like you develop some sort of brain damage or something. But all I can say is that, I'm a voice for those people out there, just to say keep going, because I have love in my heart. I actually found it. I found light and truth, goodness and mercy, compassion, and that's what life is all about, right? It's not about self-loathing and all that anger and hatred. That's what was killing me, because I had so much anger and hatred in my heart, right? And so, and just self-loathing, and I hated my own skin. And I can't tell you how happy I am that I hung on long enough to see that light, right? And whatever brings you peace in your heart, that's that light. Right? And you have to hang on there, because you owe it to yourself. Being mistreated as a child, we didn't have a choice. But now as an adult, we do have a choice. It's no longer them abusing us, right? It's our choice to walk towards that light. So I'm going to ask that you do continue to walk towards your healing and hang in there. And if you need to get a hold of me, you can get a hold of me on blogtalkradio.com. Just send me a message, or you can actually contact me through Facebook through there, and all kinds of different ways. Get a hold of me if you need some information. And if you just need a hand, like a shoulder or an ear, I tell you, I'm here to listen. And because I know, it's so hard, and we all deserve to have our stories heard, and we all deserve for people to know, hey, I was abused, this is not right. And that's, as soon as I got mad, and I thought, I'm going to stay alive. I'm going to stay alive. That's how I'm going to win the fight, because I was ready to to give up, you know. And I thought, no, why am I going to hurt myself? Why am I going to self-harm? Why am I going to kill myself? That just allows them to win the fight, right? And I thought, then I got mad, and I was like, no way, they're not winning this fight. I am winning this fight because I'm going to stay alive, and then I'm going to go out and I'm going to tell everybody they have to stay alive, right? So this is the issue, right? I just care so much, and I hope that we can make a difference and really stop child abuse and prevent it from happening and prevent human rights abuses. And I'm the Canada Regional Director for Dreamcatchers for Abused Children. I'm so happy and thrilled and so extremely ecstatic to be part of that group. And please check their website out, www.dreamcatchersforabusedchildren.com, and they have some great resources for all kinds of child abuse issues and adult survivor issues, and lots of great stuff on there. Please check their site out. And take care of yourselves, everybody. Hang on. Keep walking forward every day, one step at a time. Thanks so much for tuning in. I love you all. You're all in my heart. Take good care. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.